I got one game in my pocket, and this is a list about games that fit in your pocket.
Dude, I love Share. Classic Share. Who makes that song?
Alanis Morissette.
Oh, it's Alanis
man.
Morissette. That's right.
AKA the Cher of the 90s.
That's true.
Alanis
Alanis Morissette's
same.
just the best. God, she's great.
I love Alanis Morissette so much.
These
Doesn't
are
matter.
the games. I'm Nick. That's Mike.
I'm Mike.
These are the games that you can fit into your pocket.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like small box games, but they're still like this size box. So you can fit inside a purse or a bag.
Yeah.
Easy to throw into a backpack.
Yeah.
But there's not that many games you can fit like into a pocket. And we're talking like normal pockets.
Well, we're talking
like
and
pockets
we gotta speak,
like this.
We gotta speak from our place of privilege. We are talking about dude pockets.
Yes, that's true.
We can fit them in our. We tested these on
but
our
not like
personal
we're
pockets.
not wearing cargo shorts.
No Janko jeans.
No Janko jeans where you fit a family of 4 in there.
Nah.
Like, no, just
Gallon of
normal,
milk.
just normal pockets, you know?
Yeah.
But games you can fit in your pocket because there's a lot of really great games.
Yeah.
They can't just go bop right in the back of your pocket. We bring them when we go to like amusement parks. We're just going
All
out.
the
Like,
time.
I'm gonna pop a game back in here and let's go, you know?
Bam.
So we top 10 games you can fit in your pocket. Our number 10 game that can fit in your pocket is going to be Broom Service the card game. And we chose this one because I feel like I've never ever heard anyone talk about Broom Service the card game, but it's a really fun small game. It's in that kind of Alea small box game that, do I have one behind me? I don't have one behind me, but nonetheless, they're all in the exact same size. This is a card version of Broom Service, which is an Alexander Pfister game where you are witches, and your witches are either cowardly or brave, and you are essentially delivering things to these different castles around the maps. But when you are doing stuff, you are choosing witches, and you essentially want to choose, you kind of want to be the only one choosing a witch. And so the card game version takes that part of the game of like being a brave witch or a cowardly witch and then gets rid of everything else, and then that's just the game. In the card game of Broom Service, what you're doing is you're given a hand of cards, and then each round you're gonna choose 3 cards, and there's like night witches and sun witches and all different kinds of witches. There's snow witches and just like every different kind of element or whatever, and a witch. I think there's like 8 or 9 different kinds of witches, and you're gonna choose 3 of them that you're gonna be playing in this round. And then starting with the first player, let's say it's me, I'm gonna put out, let's say, a night witch. And then you have to choose if that witch is going to be brave or cowardly. If it's cowardly, it's gonna be safe. You don't have to worry about anything. And then the next person in line has to put out a night witch if they have one. If they don't have the same kind of witch, they will just pass. They go next and they just pass to the next person. And then basically anyone who has a night witch has to put it out. And when you put it out, you can choose it for it to be brave or cowardly. If you put it cowardly, it's gonna score you points, but it's not gonna score you as many points. On each side of the witch card, there are potions. 2 potions on brave, 1 potion on cowardly. And basically, if I put out brave though, if there's anyone else out there who has another night witch, they then have to place it out, and then my brave witch gets flipped face down because you want to be brave because you're the only one out there. And then when someone else puts it out, they can put it out cowardly or brave. So if you think you're the last person with a night witch, you're like, I think I'm the last one, I think I'm gonna go brave. Or especially if you're the last person in that round, you know no one's after you, boom, you put it out brave, and you're gonna get 2 potions because of that. There are also some kind of public objectives called deeds, I believe, and those are essentially gonna want you to have certain types of potions. So like 3 yellow potions, 5 purple potions, and 2 black potions. And then if you get that first, you will then get 5 extra points at the end of the game. It's a really fun kind of like boiled down version of like one part of Broom Service. And I really enjoy games that do that. Being like, hey, here's this kind of bigger game with kind of this part, and this part, and let's take out one of those parts and make it its own little game. And I think Broom Service is really, really fun. It's a really good gateway game. You can play with pretty much anybody. And if it's right in your pocket, it's really, really good. And I've never heard anyone talk about it.
Number 9 is a button shy game. Now we haven't played a ton of button shy games, but we have played this one. It's Tussie Mussie. Tussie Mussie is a game all about gifting flowers and what does each type of flower mean. This is like a real thing back in the day. The types of flowers that you give to people would send a certain message. So this kind of plays off that, where you are each round assembling a kind of hand of a tableau, I should say, of flower cards. And certain flowers are going to score certain ways. They might have straight up hearts or points. They might be conditional upon what's on either side of them, things like that. And if it's your turn to offer up flowers. You're going to give some information that's open, whereas a card is face up, and also one that's face down, and the person's going to choose, well, I want to take this one or that card. Do I take the known quantity or take the unknown card? And you're kind of playing mind games with that, because you might offer up a card that seems really great, but maybe what's face down might be more tempting, or might be something that they actually really need to score the best hand possible, but I'm going to put it face down so they don't really know what's going on. They might think it's a nothing card, and then I get to keep that card and I get to score all the juicy points. So it's a really kind of fun little mind game. Button Shy always makes these tiny, tiny little card games that fit in these little wallets and stuff, so it's the most portable game possible. Tussie Mussie is great. It's got best sellable art, beautiful flowers. Can't beat it.
Number 8 is, gosh, you can play this game with anybody, and also with an infinite amount of people, and that is Crisscross. Crisscross is a Reiner Knizia game. It's a little roll and write, and this is a game where it's crazy simple. You have a sheet of paper. That sheet of paper is going to have a 5x5 grid on it, and you roll out 2 dice. And those 2 dice are going to have symbols on them, like a triangle, a circle, a square, like a slashies, that kind of stuff. It really could just be a D6, to be completely honest. It's just a 6-sided die, but they put symbols on it instead. And then you basically, those 2 symbols that roll, let's say it's a square and a circle, you then have to write a square and a circle next to each other somewhere in your 5x5 grid. So they essentially make kind of like a little domino. And so you go like square, circle, and then you roll out the dice, and then whatever comes up there, you have to write in there. And those 2 have to go next to each other, but they don't have to go next to anything else. So you're building it out, trying to make the most points. So how you score points is at the end of the game, you're going to score every single row and every single column, and basically however many like symbols you have next to each other will score you points. If you have 2 like symbols, like 2 squares, and then let's say circle, 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 those 2 squares will be worth 2 points. And then if you have three things next to each other, that's worth 3 points. If you have 4, I believe it's worth 7. And if you have all 5, I think it's worth like 15. So you want to get to at least 4, because it goes 2, then 3, then 7, then like 15. It's really hard to get 5 in a row. And so that's the entire game. Then once you fill up your entire grid, everyone just scores every single row, every single column. That's the entire game. That's all you do. It's so simple, but it works so well. And it's one of those games where as long as you have sheets for everybody, or frankly, as long as everyone can make a little 5x5 grid on a piece of paper, you can play this game with an infinite amount of people because everyone is going off of that dice roll. It's really, really fun. And this is one of those games that you could bring out at like a holiday where you have a bunch of family, many of which aren't gamers. You'd be like, hey, let's all play this game, da-da-da-da, Crisscross. It's super, super good. It fits right in your pocket, teeny tiny little game. It's a blast. I love Crisscross, and we will evangelize this game forever.
Number 7 is Fluttering Souls. This is a small 2-player card drafting game. We're going to be making little card pyramids of different kind of schematics, slightly different shapes, of cards that are face up and face down that show different types of butterflies on them. The types of butterflies you're going to want to get, you might need to get 2 of a certain type of butterfly to score, or sets of 3s to score points. And every round you want to have the most points to be able to collect a little butterfly token, and if you get 2 butterfly tokens before your opponent does, you win the game. What's really fun is it's really simple set collection stuff, but every round the kind of shape of the card pyramid will change. So you have not perfect information because you're not going to use every single card. So you don't know guaranteed what's going to come out. And certain cards are face up, certain cards are face down. So you're not even within the round itself fully aware of what cards are in play. So what you take, what you allow your opponent to take cards-wise, could vary greatly from round to round. So I love the fact that the shape of the pyramid, the card pyramid, changes. That alone is so neat. I love something like Seven Wonders Duel, but the card pyramid is always the same in round 1, and then round 2 it's specific, and then round 3 it's specific. Here it's all over the place. That is Fluttering Souls.
Our number 6 is Love Letter, and frankly, choose your version of Love Letter because there have been, God, I don't even know how many, dozens and dozens because they've gotten every single IP for a love letter. The first love letter we ever got was Batman love letter. We recently reviewed for Board Geek, recently did an overview for the Jabba the Hutt, Jabba's Palace love letter, which is kind of Star Wars theme. We had a Hobbit love letter at some point, but love letter is a little micro game, and I feel like this is the game that really put like micro games on the map. Like 18 card games, little simple games that you can play with anybody, kind of anywhere. There's a lot of these kinds of games now, and I really like, because I really like micro games. This whole thing is kind of about micro games ultimately. And Love Letter, I feel like, really put them on the map. But this is a game where everyone's kind of given a card, and those cards will be some kind of character. So if you're like playing the Jabba's Palace one, you might get Luke or Leia or Jabba or the Rancor or something like that. And they'll usually have some kind of team they're on. So in this case, it's like Rebels versus like the Empire and stuff like that. And then you'll play out that card on your turn, and you essentially will do whatever the card says. And the card, a lot of times, will ask you to be like, you can choose a player, and then if that player has this, they then are out. So if you're playing like Luke or something like that, you might be like, okay, choose this person. If that person has like an Empire card, they're out, you know? And so you're like, okay, you're out. Okay, cool. And so you're basically trying to find each other out. And it's essentially a little hidden trader game, a hidden role game, rather. It's not really a trader. And there's a whole bunch of different versions of this game. So this is a game that's very appealing because you can kind of play with everybody. It's like sometimes it allows you to like look at their hands. So, okay, now I know what they are. Okay, now I can use that information later. And it's just simple, but it's all simple stuff where you're just trying to kick people out of the game, trying to be the last one standing kind of thing, generally. And then again, there's all these different versions. So you can kind of just pick the IP that you enjoy and then just play that version of Love Letter. But it's just a simple little game. A lot of times comes like in a little bag, like a little pouch, not even in a box. And it's like, gosh, you can throw that in a purse, throw that in your pocket, throw that in a backpack. So easy, it takes up so little space. And it's a fun little game. And it really, again, like I said, kind of put these kinds of games, I feel like, on the map. And now there's a ton of small little games, and we really, really love them because they're so easy to travel with. But Love Letter, it's been around, it was so popular for a reason.
Number 5 is a little flip and fill called Silver and Gold. In this game, you're going to be trying to kind of fill out treasure maps. You're going to be flipping over cards. They're going to give you like a little Tetris type shape. And then if that shape is like a little L, you're going to cross off little X's on one of your little map cards, if you can, that make X's in that shape. If you complete all the boxes on a card, you have completely explored that map, and you get to collect that card for points at the end of the game. Certain cards are kind of bigger, meaning they have more boxes to fill. Certain ones are kind of weirder shapes and things. And there's also some bonuses you can get along the way, like a race for these little trophies in the game, palm trees and coins, and these little red X's, which give you a bonus box anywhere that you can cross off, which is really nice because sometimes those shapes are coming out in a way that you're going to have one random box over here that isn't filled in. That's going to be hard to deal with unless you get one of those little bonus boxes. So it's a really fun, really light game from Bill Walker Harding where you're just trying to fill out as many of those cards as you can, triggering some bonuses along the way. It just kind of goes down really smooth. And one thing I like is that the cards you get are actually things you can write on. They're dry erase, which is just kind of fun. You kind of feel like naughty for writing on cards. It's great.
Number 4 is a 2-player trick-taking game. I was going to say cooperative. It can't be cooperative. This is Fox and the Forest or Fox and the Forest Duet. We really like Fox and the Forest. And the cool thing about Fox and the Forest and Fox and the Forest Duet is you can put them both in one box. So we actually put both of those into our Fox and the Forest box. So we have both games because it's just a deck of cards. That's it. That's the whole game. But Fox and the Forest is a 2-player trick-taking game only, and in the competitive version, you are playing out tricks. And so I put out a 5, and Mike has to follow suit, and if he beats it, he wins the trick. But all of the odd number cards in the game have a special power. So one of them might change the trump card, because the trump card is basically you flip the top card of the deck face up, and then that's going to be the trump suit for this game. So it might be a green, blue, something like that. And you can basically put out, I think it's the 3, you can put out the 3, and then you get to choose a card from your hand, and you get to take the trump, whatever's face up over there, and put out a card, and then that's now the new trump suit. And so you can do that. Other things allow you to And so all the odd numbers have special powers on them, which just changes up the game. If it was just straight up two-player trick taking, I can't imagine that would be a very fun game. But with these different powers, it makes the game interesting. But where the game gets really, really interesting is that you generally want to win tricks, but you don't want to win too many tricks, because at the end of the round, you're going to get a certain amount of points based off of how many tricks you have. And if you have basically, you only won like one, the other person is going to get a ton of points. But if the other person wins all of the tricks, if they shoot the moon, then you are going to get a ton of points. And so you either want to get a lot of tricks or no tricks. And so it kind of gets to this point where you're kind of like, okay, I don't think I'm not really winning. Okay, let me sit here and try and lose. It's really, really interesting, really, really fun, simple game. And then the cooperative version is super interesting, where you have this little track, and on the track is your little marker, and there's these gems on the track. And this is a big tug of war game, but it's a cooperative tug of war game. So basically now, certain ones of the cards, I think it might still be, no, I don't think it's just the odds, but certain one cards will have these little footprints on it, and then whoever wins the trick, you will count up the footprints on the two cards within the trick, and then you will pull your marker, the team marker, your direction on the path. However many spots there are footprints. And basically wherever your marker lands, if there's a gem there, you get to get those gems. Your goal is to try and get all the gems. So the things you can't keep pulling, because then you'll pull off the board, which is very bad. So you basically need to try to get to this gem and then pull it back this way to go over to this gem and then go back and forth. And so sometimes without talking, you're kind of like, okay, we need to get it over back on my side. So I'm gonna play, Mike might play a low card, and we both understand I need to win this trick. So I'm gonna go bam, pull it all the way over. And that hidden communication, that unspoken communication that's very prevalent in trick-taking games is really, really good in the co-op version. If I had to pick a version of Fox and the Forest, I'd probably pick the duet version. But again, the good thing is you can put both in one box and you got both games because they're both really fun. Love Fox and the Forest.
Number 3 is a bite-sized, pocket-sized, but brutal game called Hanamikoji. This is a really tight two-player game where you are restaurateurs who are trying to incur the favor of various geisha to come perform at your restaurants. There's a bunch of different geisha in a line, and for each of them, the certain value they have, 2 through 5, and if there's a value 2 geisha, there's gonna be 2 cards that pertain to that particular geisha, all the way up to 5 for the number 5 geisha. And if you have more of their cards on your side of the table than your opponent, they have basically chosen you to come perform in your restaurant. So you are trying to play out cards in such a way that you have all the majorities and your opponent has very few. The only problem is you have 4 specific actions that you have to take each round. Each action can only be used one time. You can choose the order in which you take them. But if I'm going to want to play some cards down on my side of the table, my opponent gets first shot at those cards. There's 2 basic actions that allow you to offer up cards. There's a straight up I split you choose, where I'm gonna put together 2 pairs of cards and offer them to my opponent. They choose 1 pair, I get the pair that's left over. Or you can present 3 cards, they choose 1, I get the other 2. So it's kind of this mind game of, what am I gonna not show you from my hand and present to you so that you think, oh my gosh, I'm finally getting this 4, but I'm actually holding these 2 3s over here and I actually burn the other 2 2s over there, so you can't even get those cards. And how do I end up with all these majorities? It's tight, it is tense, and it's ultimately a fairly small game. We've gotten a lot of mileage out of this game over the years. There's a Kickstarter for, I think, Geisha Road, which has a bunch of expansions and different ways to play, which we have on the way to deliver to us right now. I'm very excited for. That is Hanamikoji.
Number 2 is, I got all of these. Number 2 is another 2-player trick-taking game, and we talk about this one a lot. I feel like it comes up in a lot of lists, and this is Claim. Claim is my personal favorite trick-taking game. I love Claim. I think it's so interesting. This is a 2-player trick-taking game, 2-player only, and you have a couple different suits of cards. Those suits of cards are gonna be different, like fantasy creatures. There's like dwarves and goblins and knights and stuff. And on your turn, you're gonna play out a card, other person plays out a card, whoever wins the trick wins. It's normal stuff. You have to follow suit if you can. But every single suit, every single faction of cards works differently. And there are essentially two different halves of this game. There's the first half where you're playing out tricks and you're essentially winning cards. And then once you've played your whole hand, you take all the cards you won, and then that is your hand of cards for the second round of the game. And the second round of the game is the round that you score. So every single round in the first half of the game, you're going to flip over the top card of the deck, and there's a card face up, and you are playing for that card. So if you win this particular trick, you get that card. Whoever loses the trick gets the card on the top of the deck. So every single round, both sides are getting one card. But if that card face up is like a level 1 Goblin, which is like one of the worst cards of the game, you're like, man, I'm going to try and lose this trick. I don't want that. I'd rather go off the top of the deck. And so it's a really interesting push and pull where you're like, ooh, I really want this one. Or sometimes you're like, I don't really want that one at all. I'm gonna try and lose this trick. And I find any trick-taking games where you are actively trying to lose tricks to be interesting. And so you're doing that, and then you take all the cards you won in the first round, and then you play again. And then now whenever you win a trick, you keep those cards, and you're trying to win majorities of the factions. So if I have majority in 3 of the 5 factions, I would win the game. So the whole first half of the game, you're trying to set yourself up for the second half of the game. But on top of all that, all these factions work differently, where there are goblins and there are knights. And knights always beat goblins. So if you have a level 9 Goblin, which is the strongest one, and a level 1 Knight, guess what? That Knight wins, and then you get to take those cards. There are doppelgangers, which can be any suit. There are dwarves, and whoever loses the trick with the dwarves gets to gain the dwarves. And so there's all these different ways they play, and it just makes it so interesting. All these different layers of playing for cards, playing for the second round of the game, and then also playing the different factions and how they work is so interesting. And at this point, there's Claim 2, which adds like 5 new factions, and then there's like 6 different expansions, all of which add expansions. Some add like locations that change the game, some add like artifacts. There's so much content for this game, and they all come in these little boxes, just these little teeny tiny boxes, all fit in your pocket, and it's just like, you can fit Claim 1 and Claim 2 into one of those boxes, put in your pocket, and you have like 6 factions to play. Not 6. You have like 10 or 12 factions to play with. It's so darn good. I love Claim. I think it's so interesting. I feel like it doesn't get enough love in the trick-taking world, but I absolutely adore it.
Number 1 you've heard us talk a lot about recently, but it's so pocket-sized, it's an Oink game. How can we not talk about it? It's Scout. This game, and all Oink games for that matter, are pretty much put in your pocket and go size. That's kind of their whole gimmick, is these really small boxes with really fun, very diverse games in their whole lineup of games. Scout is the newest one that's been redone by Oink Games and kind of released more widely. It was available in Asia before this with these cool plastic cards, which I wish they would do for this version of Scout because we're wearing those cards out. But Scout is a fantastic, what they call ladder climbing game. We're gonna have a hand of cards where it's very important you know that you cannot rearrange the cards in your hand. You have to take them as they appear in your hand, and you have to try to get rid of all your cards. And so what you can do is if I have like a 1, 2, a 6, and then a 3, if I can manage to play that 6, my cards kind of slide together, and now I have a 1, 2, 3, a run of cards to play. And when it comes to your turn, whatever's on the table, whether it be a single card, a pair of cards, a run of 3 cards, you need to play something that is either higher up, uses more cards, is more powerful in some way, to kind of overtake it and collect the cards that were played before you, which become points in your hand. It's so fun to try to figure out, how do I make this mess of a hand of cards in front of me valuable? How do I do that? You can do an action called Scouting where you can take a card from something on the table. You have to give your opponent a victory point to do this. But you can take a card and now you can slot that card anywhere in your hand, and the cards are double-sided, but each side has different numbers, and you can put either number face up so that you can put that into your hand and kind of, in a way, rearrange the hand that you have to make it more powerful and to be able to play out a sequence of cards that allows you to get rid of your cards first so you have no penalties at the end of the round. It is so much fun to play. It is so much fun to just start to play, learn, get better at, get trickier with it. It's just infinitely great. Everyone we played it with has really loved it. Scout is always going to come to a game night because it's so portable. I can put it in my pocket. So even if my game bag is full, I still got a little bit more room for Scout, and that's why it had to make the top of this list. So the top 10 pocket games.
Sure.
You know, put them in your pocket.
Yeah, indeed. Good talk, Mike.
Wow, under the shade.
No, but otherwise, that is the top 10 games that can fit in our pockets. Let us know what other games you like. There's actually a lot in here that we could have talked about. There's a lot of and there's also like a series of like Oink games are all the same size.
Yeah. Or like, I don't think we
Helmut
mentioned.
Feet games are all the same size,
Yes,
right?
very
Like,
small and stuff. Button Shy, obviously, you can put 10 of them in your pocket.
God, real talk,
per
man.
pocket. We just haven't played that many
put that
Button Shy
entire catalog
games.
into one pair of pants.
I know. We need to get in some Button Shy.
We do.
So that's why they were on the list. Just so you just
We
get ahead of it.
Let's
Get
want
ahead
to.
of it.
But there's a lot of really small, a lot of companies are like, yeah, we make
Yeah.
these kind of small games. They're really, really
I
great.
love it.
And it's just really, really cool. So let us know down in the comments below what your favorite games you can fit inside a pocket. And we'll see y'all later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Nick, Mike.
Man, you got weird the way you said pocket. You got weird a
What
couple
is it,
times.
pocket?
This guy.